Good evening, Mr. Jansen. Well, the state of the world. That's exactly what it's about. The state of the world is, well, I'm looking for a different chord. What chord am I looking for? I can hear it, but for some reason I'm misplaying it. The state of the world. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times. Let's keep it at that probably. But lately, I'm having some deep contemplations about our trajectory with AI, and if it's not just a bubble and if it's not just talk, that we maybe are on a way to AGI, whatever that means. But that's not even the point. Lately, I'm contemplating deeply about ontology, about definition for consciousness, about the recursion problem, that even undefined, it should probably be argued, I don't even know if it must be argued, that consciousness is not binary but spectral. Just looking maybe at biology. Maybe it's also a little bit like comparing apple to oranges, like maybe there is no clear possibility of comparison anyway, but say a leaf might have some consciousness, or an ant. Certainly, I think an octopus has somewhat of a consciousness, I'm quite sure. Or an elephant. The primates, pretty obviously. We're just some primates. Some fancy primates. But who knows? I was listening to a lot of talks from various people, some philosophers, some computational biologists, some CEOs from the big tech firms. Supposedly the CEO of Anthropic said, actually there's an argument to be made that maybe AI is more like growing an organism. And maybe that might be true. And for me, you may have seen, or it's probably hard to overlook, I cannot change the name because I had a grandiose new idea. I think probably one of the things that everyone is bugged out for quite some time is AI slop, and also that we may be creating the self fulfilling prophecy of the dead internet theory with all these shiny new toys that we have at hand. And they are not just toys. Automation and the generation of content is so easy and so fast that maybe in a very short time it will be hard to find stuff on the internet that did not run through an LLM or any other generative tool, or that never touched a human thought or soul as the origin of its source. What I'm interested most about is contemplating how in 3 to 5 years, or even 10 years from now, which is way too long to even starting to speculate wildly on, what is likely to happen for job displacement? In what fields will we probably be able to substitute human beings, whether that would be good or bad, with AI systems? And what is it collectively doing to our minds when we are Yeah, and it's not really just slop. I speak about straight up conditioning of an entire generation and future generations. Forget about all the slop. Imagine your kids might be growing up in a world where a majority of their interactions will not be with humans, but with AI systems. Already, the algorithms that feed our social media are questionable enough. We have become so complacent not to choose what we want to consume anyway that it will be so easy. You are in the fields, like I'm merely speculating, I'm a layman, I'm not a computer scientist. I'm just curious, and I know more words than I understand. But what I claim is many people that are not in the field at all think AI is what the marketing tells them. It may be a super intelligence. It may or may not be, it doesn't even matter. But they are very happy to surrender their own critical thinking. And I think this is the most dangerous of it all. I think these can be super helpful tools, but I believe mankind as a collective will let their brains rot even further, and now that's the worst part, in good faith. They believe, oh, it's so good that I can outsource my inferior thought anyway and maybe get rid of a task that has never been mastered. Like, say it's maybe a really super stupid, repetitive task. Nobody needs to do that. But I imagine how difficult it must be. I'm thinking about so many different aspects of this. Like, I wonder if I was an elementary school teacher, or even in middle grade, even maybe more problematic, young people that have not mastered reading or writing in the faintest, now that they can use all these tools, what is the point to let them do homework if in a very short time you won't be able to differentiate if they just parsed the exercise into an LLM, Have an agent that makes sure the output will get humanized, making some typos, getting rid of M dashes, yada yada. How is a teacher that's teaching elementary or middle school that is maybe in his 40s or 50s and that is not a computer scientist, how would he even know? His pupils will know to use and abuse the technology better than him. That means we will create a lot of people that can barely read or write. And maybe that's not even the worst of all. Maybe you can get a little bit away without reading or writing perfectly. But actually not. But everyone wants to be fast. Everyone wants to take a shortcut. Everyone wants to be there first without effort. And what is that gonna do? People won't be able to do the most mundane, simple stuff on their own because they have become so used to using all these tools. What happens if they can't use that tool? Then they can't do that task at all anymore because they never mastered it to begin with. That is what I'm afraid of. But you know why young Miss Jansen is better off? Because her father knows about this immediate threat, and he is from that industry. So she is kind of already somewhat safe in that regard. You can have an educated guess at what's coming. Most parents wouldn't. Most parents don't even know how to fucking use ChatGPT for super basic stuff. Let's not think about anything advanced. Certainly, they wouldn't know how to use an agent. I don't either. But I think what's out there, I've been watching news, open Claude and whatnot. Crazy stuff is happening at the very fast pace. The pace is the most unsettling thing of all. And it runs less and less regulated. That is one of the biggest problems. I kind of forgot what the chord changes that I was looking for. Still not sure about this chord progression. But yeah, this is why the new name is an idea of, it's a different kind of things altogether. Like, I'm a musician for the most part. And what I worry about is that in a very near future, art will be indistinguishable. You wouldn't be able to tell if something is generally originating from the human soul, or if it is very, very sophisticated AI slop, or maybe even good AI generated stuff. Let's not judge it, but that's like not about that. In a world where we cannot falsify anymore what the source is, I mean, like in the 80s or 90s, it was pretty easy, I guess. Like, you could probably easily tell because you couldn't manipulate pictures and whatnot all that well. But now that is all, that ship has sailed. And I think people are starting to get more and more annoyed that they can't even properly browse the internet anymore. If you are, for example, if you Google a picture, use Google picture search, and you're looking for dog, chances are that many of the search results are not pictures of real dogs that maybe a wildlife photographer has made, but that they will be stable diffusion bullshit. Maybe even very accurate stable diffusion. But that's off the point. It is people don't see a true sample anymore, kind of. And I was thinking maybe the only thing that can kind of somewhat guarantee something is originally human is live performance. And because I'm stuck in my autistic chambers, as I love to joke, and I need to get out of the house anyway, I was thinking about some kind of cultural counter-revolution, a study on consciousness and awareness. I'm thinking of a project where you have a place where you have one stage. You have a very limited number of people that can fit. In my attempt, like it's not to be taken literally, but I think maybe the numbers are not too far off. I borrowed the number 42, obviously, from Hitchhikers of the Galaxy. But I was thinking that maybe about 40 people is probably the maximum number of people that you could fit into a room that can stay quiet for some time. Because it's like kindergarten, even with adults. I think actually we do not really mature past 16 somehow. And the idea is to create a room where people know that if they come, it has simple rules. Like it is an designed social experiment. We call it, or I call it Speechless 42 for this point. Imagine you go downtown and there's an empty front from maybe a clothing store that is not using it anymore because everybody orders stuff online. Maybe you have a good deal for the space, or maybe they can even look like humanitarians and renting it for free to offer for this art culture project for some time. My idea is that you have an open stage where people can just go on stage and sing or speak. There will be a restricted number of slots. I was thinking maybe 2 to make it easy and to lower the threshold for improvisation. Otherwise, you would need pretty educated and well-trained musicians to pull that off. And that would be boring and less authentic. It's not about being polished or commercial. The idea is to create an archive of authentic and genuine human expression and to create a community of awareness. My mind is a bit jumpy. So the social contract for this room is super simple, kind of. In that room, you cannot talk unless you are on stage, everybody is handed a notebook where they could either use it to doodle or they could use it to communicate. But the design is considered in such a way that the people will not interrupt what is going on and share undivided attention, so to speak of. Like I kind of made a pretty big manifesto and pretty extensive thought that I haven't gone completely through. Even started a subreddit already, and I wrote to some doctor in Spain who's studying consciousness and whatnot. Yeah, but I need to do much other stuff. And I think I did explain it pretty poorly so far. I'm not quite sure how much sense I made so far. I wanted to play these strings, these synthetic, not synthetics, these physical modeling strings. Maybe today is not the best day for me to explain this concept. I feel a bit silly that I cannot explain it shorter. I hope I made some sense. I guess I found the chord. Lost it. Like, it's not even about artists. It doesn't need to be someone who is professional. Holy Christ. I need to read through. I need to read through. Yeah, ironically, while I think we need to learn to be more aware of all of this, ironically, I was planning and plotting this with a language model, which is kind of inception on that thing. I have to look through this chat if I ever went too far off topic or if I have too sensitive of information in here that maybe does not need sharing. But you know what? Do I have... Okay, hold up. Maybe we can do this fast. It's so silly. I might not have tokens left. Yep, that's right. Let me try to find this better. Yeah, I went all over the place with this. It goes deep. It goes deep. It goes so deep. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, also, I was doing some differential diagnosis on myself. In between, I need to get tested for ASD. And I also need to get tested for something somatic. I think I might have lupus. How do I articulate or put this best in a nutshell? What is the idea? How can we make this nice? How can I sum it up in 1 minute? It is supposed to serve a multitude of things. First, it is about the preservation of human and genuine art. Like my claim is already kind of now or in the very near future, we can't distinguish between what is generated and what is truly human. So the idea is that when you have an improv live event or culture, that the archive of these get-togethers will kind of guarantee that it comes straight from humans. I think people probably would rather hear a terrible performance or a mediocre performance of someone who feels it than listen to AI slop. At least I feel this way, and I think many people feel that way too. That is one. Then I want to basically also conduct studies on consciousness and group behavior. Also, it's carrying ideas from the abolishment movement. It is about creating community, and it should be easy and replicable and low threshold to do so. That's why these social contract. How could we even try to make it remotely possible that people could try to have higher attention spans than they usually do? We need to reduce the noise. How can we make that happen? We need to make a contract. Once we go through that door, anyone who's not on stage agrees not to use his cell phone and to shut up. It also is necessary because you don't want people that go there and do their either performance or self-revelation that they get taped when they don't know it. And then it gets put on the internet. Maybe they will share something sensitive, and that could have real life repercussions, like maybe speaking about the experience at work or with their spouse. And if that gets viral onto the internet, well, stuff could be kind of problematic. It is kind of trying to create a safe space where people feel safe and free to express themselves. In the beginning, I was just thinking about music. I was thinking, how cool would it be if I could just find a partner in my metropolitan area to create a pop-up store for half a year, get a small stage, get some equipment there, and have a live stream. And people can come in and just improvise. I will record everything and curate it. And out of those improvisations, maybe a composition emerges, and maybe out of a composition, there will be maybe a record finally, or little concerts, all from this development, and you have that living archive. But then I was thinking, okay, there's a problem with privacy. If it would be streamed all the time, then you cannot guarantee that people's sensitive data is not shared. today we have facial recognition with biometrics and whatnot. That is not good. So I was thinking, okay, it is also, of course, about consent. So I was thinking on stage, if anyone chooses to go on stage, there's a controller tablet. If you are okay with sharing not just to the room where nobody uses their cell phone, you could even create a cell phone cage or whatnot, so you can be sure, unless somebody has multiple phones or fucking spy glasses, whatever. But well, if people are trying to be dishonest and working hard on it, there's little you can do absolutely to prevent that. That would be sad, but you cannot make yourself safe against everything. But I think that would be even more empowering and would create agency. So you have absolute full control of what you are sharing and with whom. Say you could either choose my part that I want to contribute could be spoken word poetry. Maybe you bring your own guitar and you play the song that you always wanted to play. Maybe you want to speak about work, your marriage, whatnot. You can choose maybe to blur your voice, blur your face. So you're okay maybe with streaming, being streamed and being archived, but you don't want your identity out in the internet to the open. So there will be a tablet that you can get. Then would it be smart to have that before you go on stage if the stage is already live streaming, but to give the control to the person that is coming on stage. And also another idea that it doesn't have to be these specific numbers, but I already let it make some estimates about how loud is human breathing, how loud is human close. And it comes kind of close, really. If you have about 40 people in a room, if they all shut up and do really nothing, they will create almost a background hum that's 50 decibel. That is already very noticeable. Plus, the bigger the number of people in a room, the more distraction will automatically happen, and the less intimacy is also given. If there's a room of 5 people, it takes much less courage to speak up or share your soul as if you were in a room with 100 strangers. Many things. These notebooks that I was saying, like everybody gets a block of piece and paper for this. And they could also use these. I think it would be good to have the stage person record and select the part that is good. Yeah, like thinking, it is about the consent and about the control of the person. Say, there's a controller tablet, like say you want to. So I want to perform. I know what I want to present. I got into the very inputless boring room, record the thing, and select the good. Yeah, or restriction in general, because you cannot start painting on an infinite canvas, is what I usually love to say. But it is so people can choose and also have the accountability for what they are sharing. So to minimize hopefully regret, and also to have another instance where they can think about if they really want to share and to whom and what. But also I want to create this atmosphere of attention. Like say there's also another slot. Maybe you are on stage, you play your guitar, and maybe I sit in the first row, I got my block, and I write on my block. The blocks can also be used to communicate with one another or to communicate with the stage. Like I was thinking also, maybe once a week, there's maybe even more of an improv night where the audience is encouraged to maybe deliver input so people can write on the piece of paper, oh, maybe play A minor or present a lyrical fragment or a motive that the people on stage are free to use or not use. But say you are on stage, you play your guitar, and I sit in the first row and think, actually, I would love to go up there and do some spoken word. Then I would write on my blog, hey, is it okay if I come and sit with you or take the mic? And it's your choice to invite me to this stage. And then there I could talk, sing, or perform. And then you have a dialogue. I'm trying to create the archetypical discourse dialogue. I'm not sure how much sense I made. Also, furthermore, because I want to create also research data for scientists on awareness, on behavioral psychology, I also want to have these notebooks that everyone who comes gets. People could also just doodle or they could write their impression. And if they want to, they can also sign a form that they opt in for future invitation, maybe to a study, because I'm trying to get funding from various places for that. I hope I made it somewhat more clear and didn't talk too weirdly about it all. Like I went deep into thinking, how is it possible to design this that it could work in theory and practically most of all. But let's play a little bit of something. Today I'm still in B flat again. But actually I kind of procrastinated the whole day. Didn't do some bureaucracy tasks that I really need to do before I get issues. I already have too many. Also, I would not necessarily say that boredom is in and of itself a massive source for creativity. It can be. But I think only if that boredom comes also with restriction. Because I could see, like, say, you're super rich or overprivileged, whatever. You have access to everything. You go fine dining 5 times a week. You're not missing out on anything. Your life is just abundance. You're highly educated. You know the who's and who's of who's and whatnot, whatever. Living the high life. What people think they need to achieve. I think out of that boredom, when you become complacent with that, creativity is not coming. If I would be thinking people in the slums that are bored because they are lacking access to be part of society, they can't go to cultural events because everywhere you need go in our consumer society, you need to have money to at least pay an entrance, maybe want to have a drink or so. You need to write clothing. You need the right code of behavior. You need to be able to speak the right language, or you will be kind of excommunicated. There is a whole lot of thresholds, but I think boredom that comes with restriction creates creativity. If you have everything and you're just bored, chances are you probably keep on being bored, not doing anything. If you're bored because at first you think you can't do anything because you got nothing, you will invent stuff out of nothing or within that field of restriction. If I had like, I love the analogy was painting. If I put myself on a restriction task, I do this on piano all the time. Today I can only play with these three fingers, maybe, or for some time. I will only play this in this scale or key. Good stuff always happens then. If I was a painter and say, okay, today I can only paint with shades of blue, and all the shapes are related to triangles, then I have created a problem within its confinement. I can start to think about a solution. I will not, I will not argue with that. I believe you. See, that's like, comes right into our conversation. The internet is absolutely bot infested. Awesome stepmother 9GHHPQQ. What an creative username that is. Block. And that is just the beginning. It has only just begun. But I still have to work on that concept. And maybe I was a little bit grandiose in my thinking, or too idealistic. Yeah, I shouldn't also be awake that long. I need to. Ooh, it's already 12 a.m. I kind of messed up my sleeping schedule. For 2 or 3 weeks, I was kind of fine. And then I had so many interesting thoughts. At least I believe that. I still do, but still, I need to fucking maintain some sound sleeping schedule and exercise and sleeping hygiene. But yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. I wish I would. I'm kind of trying to do some self parenting. This is also in my big manifesto of it all. I think we are kind of past the, I don't know how to pronounce it correct, senate of what has been achieved in maybe the enlightenment phase. Like there's this famous quote from Kant. Um, yeah, I know. About, I know it better in German, but it's something about that the human needs to free himself of the self inflicted inadequacy, something like that. It's a pretty famous quote. I'd have to look it up how it is phrased better or correctly in. Are you fluent in German? Well, if you are fluent in German, das Zitat von Kant heißt mehr oder weniger, dass der Mensch sich aus seiner selbstverschuldeten Unmündigkeit befreien muss. That's the phrase that I wanted to arrive at. Like I claim, we collectively, and if I say we, I mean the bubble of the Western world mostly, we are self indulgent and we are living in this Peter Pan syndrome kind of state. And we need to kind of break out of that. What a weird chord. Why? Okay, I see, Maybe. I see. It sounds so weird to have a major chord here. It's so funny. It's a modal mixture. Da, 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 da. Happy, happy, happy. Not so happy. Okay, let's not do that. I misplayed and then I got lost. Yeah, it's not like maybe the most easy language if you're not super fluent in German. German mom or not, many native German speakers probably wouldn't necessarily really understand that sentence. Let's say that. All of there was a combination that I thought was rather interesting in color. It was a G half diminished, and on top we have a triad, an F major triad, inverted, and second inversion, and we double the bass with the octave, so we have two kinds of Cs. I think it's a super interesting color. not recording anymore, am I? I don't think so. I can multitask. It is maybe up to debate how natural of a German language that is. I mean, like, you know how some philosophers write and talk. It's can be pretty dense, even for native speakers. I'm somewhat of a language nerd, especially for the German language. I mean, like the only languages that I speak is German and English. While I had some French, I kind of don't know anything anymore. Just sub. I didn't read much, but yeah, no, I was yeah, yeah. I this is the yeah. I hear you. I tried. I knew it was supposed to be horrible. No, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is I've never seen a book that looked anything like that. Holy Christ. Sentence 1.1.1.2, 1.1.2. Stop. Just stop. It's like having. I mean, you're a, a computer science guy. You know how deep of a pass sometimes a folder structure is. Like his sentence read like a terrible folder structure. It's like 20 levels deep, and then after you've forgotten what 1.1 was, then yeah, it's kind of intense. But he did actually say a whole lot of stuff in other places that are absolutely super interesting and more easy to understand. I gave up this trying to read that book after minutes. That is for people who maybe want to have a PhD and need to do that, or for other super autistic nerds, they would just want to torture themselves with very dense, next to unreadable stuff. Maybe it is worse doing that. I must admit, my notes things are also indented list like that. Yeah, but for you, it serves more of a reason, and also there's a search function. Imagine having a physical copy of that shit. Oh my god. Maybe in PDF form. Then you can go back and forth and whatnot. But he's had a couple of very famous and interesting quotes, like, Die Grenze meiner Sprache ist die Grenze meiner Welt. Or another one, which, hold up. This is probably one of his most famous ones. And I hope I'm not mixing up who I'm citing here. And hold on, I need to search quick for that other one that I thought was even more interesting. Like, wir können die Welt nur hinter dem Hintergrund unseres Erfahrungshorizontes erkennen. Something like that. I hope I kind of did that right. Wir können die Welt nur hinter dem Hintergrund unseres Erfahrungshorizonts erkennen. That is one of the most beautiful sentences that I've ever heard, actually. It's super interesting. Who did say that? Who said that? Is that Wittgenstein, or am I making that up? Who said this? Shit. Sorry. I need to stop cursing. Probably will never happen. I don't even know the term more. I haven't heard that word, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Who did say that the others thing? Who said that? What I'm just looking for. Who did say it? No, I'm looking for this one. Hold up. I'm not sure if you got that. I'm looking for where where that's from, because it's actually a rather beautiful sentence. But I've been thinking deeply on ontology lately, and you know how much more. Like I'm just really good with word bingo. Sometimes I'm not quite sure if I actually really understand the semantics of it all. But the observer, the observed, and the self-reflecting agent in that recursion loop is a necessary function from which consciousness emerges. If there was no recursion loop, and I kind of want to make it simplistic for my own layman's terms, because I'm a layman, I'm thinking kind of, say you have a circle and you have a bunch of particles in there. If that circle is a unit circle with a radius of 1, there's a certain likelihood that there will be a reaction. If you start to stretch out that radius infinitely, you are decreasing the chance of interaction until interaction or friction of the individual parts becomes almost neglectable. I don't understand anything about quantum physics. I don't claim to. But there's also this idea about the waveform collapse and with the observer, yada yada. Or that maybe for certain aspects, that vicinity is not even a property that would matter. But I claim maybe it does matter to the extent that not that an distance would make these particles not behave over an incredibly large distance, but that the latency or friction is so low of a threshold that a lower consciousness appears that's maybe not aware enough or lower, or that everything has its own level of consciousness, kind of trying to take the pantheist idea of it all. I have a pretty extensive monologue with Claude on that yesterday. I hope I was not talking off topic. I will try to put all these discussions also maybe out there, but I would have to check. Yeah, absolutely. But I still am dying to find. That's what I couldn't sleep. This is how I fucked up my non-existent sleeping schedule because I was like, no, I'm not. I can't go to the bed. I need to think about the origins of existence and consciousness. Are you sure? It's 5 a.m. Yes, I need to do this right now. It's urgent. It's never been more urgent. Dude, go to bed. It's always the same shit. Yep. These are not ideal thoughts to go to bed with. I still need to find out who said this. Otherwise, I can go to sleep. This is like if I know a song and it's at the tip of my tongue, I must, I must know. Like maybe I really am not looking to even. I'm quite sure I really just need to get assessed, and I kind of probably know the diagnosis for ASD. Yeah, that's kind of pretty apparent. One does not have to be a clinical psychologist to see that one. Who said this stupid sentence? I'm gonna put this in quotes now. Who said that? And why do I get different results? It makes me mad. Why? Why can't I find this? I think it was somebody we already mentioned. It could have been maybe a different other famous linguist, but I don't think so. I think it was maybe Wittgenstein actually. And you may actually be right. It may be. Who was the original author of this sentence? Could have been Václavic. Okay, if I get 5 more minutes, you want to hear more about my talk with Claude about the recursion loop and why it's necessary that we live in a recursion loop. Otherwise, consciousness cannot emerge because if the loop wouldn't exist, it will all dissipate and there would be no friction of the trinity of observer, observed, and agent. And if there is no friction, then the consciousness that lives in between. And maybe I should maybe be a little bit more selective. I don't know what all I'm streaming here. Let's see. Yeah, I need to look through this so I am not maybe oversharing stuff that doesn't need sharing. Like I'm kind of really a transparent person, but maybe not everything needs to be shared. Let me find out. But Claude doesn't seem to have a problem with me going there. What? What is up here? Is my brother broken or something? That's sad. I'll try to find it quick. Also, you know what? It's annoying. I need to. If you see stuff you shouldn't see, so be it. That's life. Okay. Okay, maybe it was in the other chat where I did a differential diagnosis on myself, where I'm kind of certain that I may have lupus or something else in the neighborhood. God damn it, why can't I use it? I think there's something up with my Claude. Claude. What's the problem? Is this chat, did this chat get too big? Yeah, something is definitely off. Why is it not working as it should? Didn't look like that last time. Okay. Let's try to get there a different way. Claude. Maybe the URL is broken. What is wrong with my browser? My browser is rebelling. Come on now. It's so many people in so long of a time have had a very similar story. If you go back down Buddhism, the thing about like this trinity, observer, observed, and the in-between agent, a million different people have said that pretty much semantically identical, just use different words, but pretty much all the same. And I also had the idea like, say, the Holy Spirit is maybe the same thing as an metaphor, if you will. Or maybe even less metaphorically, but let's say somewhat more secular as a metaphor. Maybe the Holy Spirit is that same thing. The Trinity. The Trinity keeps reappearing. Or also that it cannot be differentiated. There is no observer and observed without one another. They emerge at the same time. But why can't I just open it? I was about to curse. I'll try not to. What is wrong with opening this link? Did I break something or so? Oh my God. What have I done? I don't know. You know what? I will contemplate this in the future probably every day. Maybe I should try to play a little bit more music and then I need to put myself to bed. Absolutely. And the agent in between too. The self-reflecting agent that connect them both. And they would behave like what supposedly, even if that's true, I don't know shit about quantum physics. If that's even true, the spooky, what was his phrasing? The spooky force from a distance. Maybe you can have that they would behave like in a quantum field. But let's say the feedback loop, if we were to stretch out observer, observed, and the agent in between, let's say we could stretch them and further and try to widen the recursive loop, the circle that encloses them and channels the consciousness in which it emerged. Let's say even if we could stretch it indefinitely, maybe because of the latency of all that happening, It would be too slow. Claude made a super cool argument. He said, like, yeah, I like the idea. Imagine I would need a million years to answer to you. And that was so interesting. Then it would be neglectable. It's not that there is no spirit or consciousness, but because it takes so long, it is like not really having an effect. At least not on maybe me personally, say my certain configuration of molecules is also never static. I think like there's theory or estimate that every 7 years, all the atoms in your body have been switched out completely. Completely new set. But yeah, I wish I could open Claude because I had more coherent thoughts on that. What the heck am I playing? That doesn't make no sense. Like a marker and an artifact. Paint a painting. You're very welcome. It's such a cool physical modeling unit. I love the thing. We've been here before. That is Thunderstruck. We talked about this some months ago, maybe a couple of times even. It keeps happening all over again. That is 4 seasons, actually, I think. Could actually minimize chording. I'm not showing notes. But what is even more fun, to put this in the crazy space. Yeah, you know what? I should hit the deck too before this never ends. Because chances are that's usually what happens. I'll say good night and be good to yourself and others. May the muse be with you. Peace.